This shocking story began long before the ordeal. A respected and wealthy family of doctors seemed almost perfect, and they persistently pursued their goal. 17 cycles of IVF, years of struggle, thousands of dollars, endless hope and heartbreak. Finally, 3 beautiful daughters, Liané, Maya, and Karla. The mother, who fought so hard to bring them into this world, would be the same woman who took them out of it. What happened shocked 2 countries and made the world question the dark side of motherhood. A loving mother, a medical doctor, committed an unspeakable act. 3 lives were lost at the hands that were supposed to protect them most. She told them they were going to make necklaces, but the cheerful game turned into a frightening reality. This is a story about warning signs that were ignored, about cries for help that went unheard, about a family that didn't take threats seriously. This is a story about how 3 little girls could have been saved, but weren't. My dear viewers, before we dive into this painful but vital story, I want to be clear about the educational purpose of this video. This is not just a retelling, it is an analysis intended for awareness and prevention. This story is a powerful lesson in how to see danger where others see normality. If you support this mission, every like and subscription helps signal to YouTube that this is important, educational content. It helps us spread this awareness and honor the memory of Liané, Maya, and Karla by protecting others. Lauren Fox was the eldest daughter of Malcolm and Wendy Fox. The family lived in South Africa. Lauren's childhood was filled with difficulties, especially with socialization. Because of this, she could not get along with either teachers or children, so she always found herself in a kind of isolation. There were no noisy birthdays and friendly parties in her life. The girl grew up without companionship, and this led to the aggravation of psychological problems in her teenage years. Lauren was very anxious, barely able to restrain herself, and saw dangers everywhere. These difficulties began when she turned 15 years old. From childhood, she was interested in medicine, so after school, she entered college and later became a general practitioner. During her work in the following years, she met Karla Dickason, an orthopedic doctor. Unlike Lauren, the young man was very sociable and open, which manifested itself in all areas of his life. Despite such significant differences, they quickly grew close and fell in love. There seemed to be complete harmony between them. They perfectly complemented each other. Due to her boyfriend's influence, Lauren became more cheerful and sociable. In May 2006, they got married. At that time, the family lived in Pretoria in southern Africa. After the wedding, the couple jointly built a house there. It was located on almost 2.5 acres of private land. The house had 4 bedrooms, a gym and pool, which indicated a fairly high level of well-being for the family. After starting their life together, Lauren's field of activity changed slightly. She began to specialize in gynecology and neurological diseases, but practically immediately after trying to get pregnant, she decided to put her career on hold for the sake of having children. She last engaged in medical practice in 2012, but later returned to work at a medical center, no longer as a practicing doctor, but as a part-time manager. She helped her husband. However, due to the identified health problems, the couple could not conceive a child, although they desperately wanted to. Therefore, in 2013, the couple turned to reproductive specialists. As a result, after effective treatment, after 7 rounds of IVF, they had a girl, whom they named Sarah, but the birth was premature at 18 weeks of pregnancy. The baby had a heartbeat but was lost shortly after. According to African medical practice, newborns under 20 weeks are not even considered a pregnancy loss. They are classified as a clinical loss, so Sarah was handled in the same way. Because of this, the couple could not even properly say goodbye to their daughter and hold a funeral, which was a huge blow to the woman, after which she cried every day for 2 months. Then there were consultations with reproductive specialists. The couple again could not get pregnant. Lauren went through 17 cycles of IVF, known for its financial and emotional burden on patients. Eventually, the Dickasons decided to use donor eggs, thanks to which they had their first daughter, Liané. During pregnancy, the mother of the family was very worried, afraid of an unfavorable outcome and losing the child. Against this background, psychological problems arose again after giving birth. In 2015, she sought help from specialists who made a disappointing diagnosis: anxiety, postpartum depression, and major depressive disorder. At that time, Liané was 18 months old. The husband took leave and took care of the girl. Other relatives also joined in the child care. Lauren followed the doctor's recommendations and coped with her ailment thanks to medication. It seemed that everything had improved. The happy parents did not stop trying to have a second child, and after a few years, Lauren became pregnant again. This time, the ultrasound showed twins. The couple was delighted that their family would be replenished with 2 people at once. However, during the examination, a cleft palate, or a so-called wolf's mouth, was found in one of the girls. Because of this, Lauren fell into anxiety again, felt strong stress, and was very worried about the overall condition of her babies in her belly. In 2018, twins Maya and Karla were born. At 5 months old, an operation was performed to correct the congenital anomaly of one of them. After that, both arms of the child were fixed with splints so that she would not touch her face. The family successfully coped with this problem. In addition, after the operation, the Dickasons decided to hire a nanny to help the mother of many children. At that time, Lauren felt the main burden of household problems associated with the birth of children, and she was still haunted by panic attacks. During the same period, the head of the family worked late. He had to work hard to keep such a large family in prosperity and not deny themselves anything. He described his wife as a very restless mother who worried about anything. Lauren constantly worried that something would happen to the children and showed hyperprotection, literally monitoring their every step. This annoyed the children and created tension in the house, as the mother sometimes used harsh methods to make them obey or calm down. Eventually, all the difficulties were overcome. The Dickasons were a fairly wealthy family. They could afford a housekeeper, a gardener, and a nanny. Household helpers were needed to reduce the burden on the mother of the family, who was not going through the best of times in terms of mental health. However, by 2020, changes began in the family. Due to the pandemic, strict restrictive measures were introduced in the country, and the Dickasons gathered to live abroad, so they decided to sell the house with land plots and temporarily rented a comfortable apartment. Just 6 months before the incident, the situation and atmosphere in the family were so happy that Lauren stopped taking antidepressants for the first time in 10 years. By March 2021, all medications were canceled for her. The woman seemed completely mentally healthy, and nothing foreshadowed trouble. She began doing CrossFit at least 3 times a week to maintain her athletic shape. Lauren also managed to cope with an eating disorder. She began to look much better, acquired a more positive outlook on life, and this allowed her to realize its value in a new way. The husband could not help but notice these positive changes. He was glad that his wife seemed to have overcome her ailments and that their family was fine. Unfortunately, the joy did not last long. By the June quarantine of 2021, restrictions on movement around the city were again introduced, as well as a number of other prohibitions for the period of the COVID pandemic. Against this background, Lauren's depression began again. During this period, due to the quarantine, the head of the family was not working and spent time with his family. The children were drawn to their father and willingly spent all their time together. At this moment, Lauren found herself on the sidelines of family life because she often had conflicts with the children, and they became less drawn to her. It was difficult for the mother to cope with them, but they got along perfectly with their father. When Graham went back to work, the children asked 100 times a day when their dad would come home. The woman felt inferior because of this since she could not establish a full-fledged relationship with her daughters. Lauren repeatedly complained that she got the loudest children in the world. In July 2021, a wave of unrest swept through South Africa. which was very frightening to Lauren. An aggressive crowd of protesters committed public disturbances, looted, and were aggressive. As a result, the entire family, due to the woman's panic, decided to move to New Zealand, where it was quiet and calm, and it seemed that life would now normalize. This place was not chosen by chance. Graham's parents lived here. But problems could arise in the new country. There were numerous obstacles since emigration took place in a pandemic. People could be denied a residence permit even on the basis of a chronic illness or for not meeting certain health standards. To hide her problems, the mother of 3 stopped taking antidepressants shortly before moving. However, this was not recklessness on her part, since from February 2020, her psychiatrist noted in a report that Lauren was safe for society and herself and did not insist on taking antidepressants. The prescribing of medications was only of a recommendatory nature. In the process of moving, the woman again experienced severe stress. She was very worried that the emigration would not take place. Immediately before the trip to New Zealand, the Dickasons had to undergo mandatory isolation. It was expected to stay in this state for about a week in order to detect possible symptoms of COVID before flying to another country. One of the daughters tested positive, so they were quarantined for another 2 weeks. Such a long period of isolation was difficult for the whole family. It was at this time that friction began between the spouses. At the end of August 26th, the whole family left South Africa. Later, Lauren described this trip as the most difficult in her life. She was literally not left for a moment with doubts and fears about success in New Zealand. But upon arrival, they were quarantined again. For a period of 2 more weeks, the whole family was placed in a hotel room where food was delivered. They were not allowed to leave the room, except for the hour that was allocated daily for walks. Many called the period of isolation very traumatic from a moral point of view. It is not surprising that Lauren was not in the best shape, and this only worsened her condition. Finally, the forced imprisonment came to an end. This happened on the eve of the couple's 15th wedding anniversary, with which Lauren congratulated Graham on social networks. She thanked her husband for these incredible adventures and for being able to create a wonderful family. The couple with their daughters settled in Timaru, which at that time had a population of about 30,000 people. It is a very quiet and hospitable town. However, even here, everything did not go according to the woman's plan. First, living conditions were not much better than in South Africa. Even electricity was turned off here with the same frequency. In addition, the husband got a job as an orthoptist much earlier than originally planned. Almost immediately after the quarantine, he began working at a hospital in Timaru and went on shift. Lauren expected that they would have more time to resolve all issues with the move and adapt to the new environment, where the husband would support her. But instead, the exhausted mother again found herself up to her ears in everyday problems and was left alone with 3 small children, without any help. On the appointed day, the family arrived at the migration department. They were very worried since the chosen country had strict rules for accepting potential citizens, and there were many refusals. Their documents were accepted, and they were sent to wait for a response. Later, the couple went to a local Christian school to enroll their children in a preschool group. The husband recalled that during this period, his wife seemed particularly depressed. The night before, on September 15, 2021, Lauren could not sleep. The next day, she had to take the twins to kindergarten and her eldest daughter to school, but she could only rest for 3 hours at night. The morning began noisily, as the children were excited by the early rise and gathering, choosing the appropriate clothes for themselves, not paying attention to their mother's fatigue. The woman took them to kindergarten and school. Returning home, she lay down to rest. At 10:47 in the morning, Lauren received a photo from the kindergarten teacher, in which her twins were sitting at the table and sweetly having lunch. After running around on business all day, the mother picked up the girls from kindergarten and school around 3 o'clock, then took them to the playground. Later at home, one of the twins, Karla, threw a tantrum because her dad was at work, and she missed him very much. The other twin, Maya, who had recently fallen out of bed, was still recovering and felt discomfort. The girls cried so hard that their mother could not calm them down. At this time, Lauren felt like a bad mother because it was very difficult for her to appease the children. They did not listen to her at all. She prepared chicken nuggets for them, but the children said that this was not enough to make them happy. After this phrase, the incident could not be avoided. It became the last straw that overflowed the cup of patience of the depressed Lauren. The mother bathed the children and put them to bed around 6 p.m. Several messages from South African friends arrived on Lauren's mobile phone, but most of them remained unanswered. Graham came home from work for a very short time, had dinner, and immediately went to an important meeting at 7 o'clock. And at this time, in his absence, a terrible incident occurred in the house. Approximately 20 minutes after her husband left the house, the children began to scream again. The mother of 3 went to the garage to get plastic ties and brought a whole pack. The children made a lot of noise, so she wanted to calm them down. Lauren told the children that they would weave necklaces and make neckties. The younger ones did not understand what was happening, so they willingly joined the game. But Liané got angry with her mother and shouted at her for what she was doing. She did not like what was happening. However, this was not a game. The mother resolved to do the unthinkable. She used cable ties and other methods to complete her terrible plan. All the while, she repeated that she was very ill and would soon go away, and therefore she was taking them with her, as she believed no one would be there to care for them. After Lauren committed the irreparable act, she fell into a state of insanity. Eventually, exhausted, she sank to the kitchen floor. She spent several hours in this state, in a kind of stupor, until her husband returned. He saw that his wife was out of sorts and asked if everything was all right, to which he received an incomprehensible answer. The man realized that something was wrong and rushed upstairs to check on the children. Graham went up to Liané's room to see if everything was all right, but found her with no signs of life. He looked into the other room and saw Maya and Karla in the same condition. Graham tried to remove the ties but couldn't. The man ran downstairs to the kitchen for scissors, seeing his wife there, who continued to mutter something. He started shouting at her, but Lauren did not react to him in any way. The man grabbed the scissors and ran upstairs again, trying to save his children. He cut the ties on all his daughters, but it was too late. Nothing helped. The man could not find signs of life in his children and turned to a colleague from the hospital who lived across the street for help. He ran out into the street to meet his colleague. The last thing the head of the family saw before closing the door was his wife lying on the floor with her eyes closed. Graham was not sure if she was alive or not. He was only worried about his daughters, so he did not waste precious time on Lauren. A friend from the hospital tried to provide assistance and save the children, but all efforts were in vain. Around 9:40, the neighbors heard a loud bang. It turned out to be a loud slamming of the door when Graham ran to his colleague, followed by sobs and screams near the Dickason's house. Graham walked near the house and shouted that everything that had happened was his fault. He was tormented that he had left the children with their mother, who was out of her mind. The police and an ambulance arrived around 10 p.m. Law enforcement officers found the children in the house, along with cut cable ties. The doctors who arrived could only confirm the tragedy. 2-year-old twins Maya and Karla and their 6-year-old sister Liané were gone. On the kitchen floor, police officers found Lauren. She was alive and conscious, answered the questions of the patrol officers, but did it in a very quiet, muffled voice. The woman seemed devastated. Some marks were found on her arms and forearms, covered with adhesive plaster. The police asked if she had taken any prohibited substances that evening, but the woman denied it, although it was, of course, untrue. Later, 9 plates of various medications that Lauren had taken were found in the trash can. Nearby, a pack of 100 cable ties was found. A toxicological examination confirmed that there were no prohibited substances or alcohol in the woman's blood, but tests showed a high content of antidepressants, sedatives, and other medications. 40-year-old Lauren was immediately arrested and sent to the hospital for assistance. The news of the horrific event involving 3 children shocked all local residents, and within a few days, it shook all of New Zealand and South Africa. The nanny who worked in their house, upon learning about the incident, literally lost her speech. The woman could not believe for a long time that it was true. She said in an interview that Lauren and Graham with their children were the perfect family. She had never seen anything bad in their home, no quarrels or conflicts. The nanny was sure that Lauren loved her children with all her heart. The last time she saw the children was in June 2021. The family was delighted with the move to New Zealand and was looking forward to the trip. After Lauren was taken into custody, Graham was forced to return to South Africa, as his visa was expiring in December 2021. Then he returned to the country again to participate in the trial. He corresponded with his wife. The man simply did not want to believe that his wife had done this to the children. It seemed he even supported her. The day after the arrest, Lauren woke up in the hospital. She did not believe that she could survive all this and was even more shocked when police officers entered the ward and accused her of the act against the 3 girls. On September 18th, Karla Dickason was officially charged with 3 counts of. Later, after recovering in the hospital, the woman confessed to the crime during interrogation, but insisted that she did not wish them harm. It happened because of her insanity. She justified herself by her mental state and a whole bunch of problems that she had recently faced. Lauren felt that she was bad at being a mother. She could not cope. The children screamed constantly. At some point, she simply could not stand it. The woman also confirmed the sequence of her actions during her confession, detailing which child she targeted first, second, and third. At the same time, Lauren denied that she heard voices in her head or saw any hallucinations. After the first court hearing, a psychiatric examination was scheduled at the insistence of the lawyer. Lauren refused to eat and lost weight to less than 110 pounds. Problems with her physical and mental health dragged the case on for months. As a result, the hearings were postponed to July 17, 2023. Almost 2 years after the horrific event, the accused again appeared before the court. The attorneys tried to build their line of defense on the basis of the women's mental problems. The attorneys told their version of what happened. In their opinion, Lauren was disappointed and depressed by the long years of everyday life, health problems, and struggled with her perfectionism, which tormented her so much. The trial essentially became a battle of psychiatric experts, boiling down to one agonizing question: was this a calculated, heartless act, or the tragic result of a mind completely broken by insanity? The defense argued she was legally insane, driven by a twisted, altruistic motive. Gripped by paranoia about the pandemic and the future, Lauren truly believed her children would be better off in heaven with her than left to suffer in a world she saw as cruel and uncertain. The prosecution, however, argued this was a deliberate and methodical act. Graham's own testimony was heartbreaking. He admitted his wife had told him 3 times she had thoughts of harming the girls, but he never believed she was capable of acting on them. After a harrowing 4-week trial, the jury delivered its verdict. Karla Dickason was found guilty on all 3 charges. The jury did not believe she was insane. As the verdict was read, Lauren sat motionless, sobbing quietly in the defendant's bench. The case had been so emotionally taxing that even some of the jurors were seen crying as they left the courtroom. On June 26, 2024, the final sentence was handed down. Karla Dickason was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Lauren fully admitted her guilt and expressed deep remorse. She will be held at Hill Morton Hospital's secure mental health facility until she is deemed mentally well enough to be transferred to a prison. Liané was 6 years old. She had just started her second day at Timaru Christian School. She was excited about her new life, her new friends, her new beginning. Maya was 2 years old, a gentle, smiling little girl who loved tea parties and perfected her pinky finger. A real little charmer who knew just what look to give to get one more sweet. Karla was 2 years old. Born with a cleft palate, she overcame it and became feisty, independent, and strong. A cheerful and happy little soul whose personality was contagious. They deserved to grow up. They deserved to live. The warning signs were there. Lauren spoke about wanting to harm her children. She told friends and family she was struggling. She cried for help in every way she knew how, but no one understood how serious it was. By the time everyone realized the danger was real, it was too late. 3 little girls were gone. This is the painful truth about maternal mental health crises. The signs are often dismissed until an incident like this strikes. We must learn to listen, to believe, and to act before it's too late. Friends, thank you for watching the video to the end. Please don't forget to put a like under this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Spreading awareness of these stories is vital, and your engagement helps more people see this story and learn from it.